In 2007, Disney released Enchanted, a charming and delightful celebration of Disney animation, with Amy Adams giving an excellent performance as an animated fairy tale character transported to New York City. Now we're finally catching up with Giselle and her husband Robert in the long-awaited sequel titled Disenchanted, now streaming on Disney+. The sequel's been in development for a very long time, but they managed to bring back most of the principal cast, along with songwriters Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, although Adam Shankman is the director this time, rather than Kevin Lima. Interesting enough, Shankman was actually at one point attached to direct Enchanted, back when that movie was spending many years in development. I'm a huge fan of the first film, so the sequel had a lot to live up to. So how does Disenchanted stack up for me? It's fine. The film is perfectly watchable with just enough fairy tale magic, but it comes across as serviceable more than anything. There's not necessarily a lot wrong with it per se, but Disenchanted never quite rises above just being a nice family film. To start with what I enjoyed about the movie, Amy Adams is definitely the best part, which is not too surprising. I like how she depicts Giselle here. She still has that Disney princess charm and ability to break into song, but we nonetheless see the long effect of living in the real world and being part of this family. Later on, when a spell causes her to become the typical wicked stepmother, Adams is able to switch between the Giselle we know and this evil stepmother character, right down to even subtly changing her facial expressions. She suffers from a sort of multiple personality disorder, and Adams conveys Giselle's worry of this other person taking over. She's also having a ball of a time playing a villain and acting evil. A big emphasis in the sequel is the relationship between Giselle and her stepdaughter Morgan. For some reason, Rachel Covey was not asked back to reprise her role, but Gabriella Badochino does well, and I bought her as the teenage version of the young girl we saw in the first movie. She's admittedly the cliched, embarrassed teenage character, but it makes sense that at a certain point she might grow tired of Giselle's constant singing and sunny personality. At one point she says something hurtful to her stepmother, and I did genuinely feel bad for Giselle in that moment. What kept me invested in the story was seeing how their relationship would mend. Meanwhile, Robert is strangely sidelined through most of the film. I understand the story's focus is on Giselle and Morgan, but he still feels underutilized as it tries to find things to do with him. Disenchanted is of course a musical, with even more songs than the first film. With Menken and Schwartz returning, I'd high hopes these would be as memorable as That's How You Know, and So Close. Instead, they're just kind of nice. They're listenable, but I don't see myself humming any of them. I thought the best one was a villain song with Amy Adams and Maya Rudolph. And for those of you who were disappointed Idina Menzel did not sing in the first movie, although she herself said she appreciated being cast purely for her acting ability, you'll be happy to know she does get to sing a few numbers. She's given a particularly big one where she gets to show off her pipes we're all familiar with from Wicked and Frozen. Schwartz even includes a nod to Frozen in the lyrics. Speaking of, part of the joy of watching Enchanted came from picking up all the Disney Easter eggs. That continues here, with some obvious and others a bit more subtly woven in. The first movie was made shortly after Disney had gotten rid of most of their equipment and animators used to create their hand-drawn animated films, so the animated sequences were outsourced to a different company. They brought the artists and equipment back to make The Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh, only to get rid of most of them again, so Disenchanted had to do the same. The animation provided here by the Montreal-based Tonic DNA is well drawn, and it's great they continued that tradition from the first movie. Humor-wise, there are some decent chuckles here, but it otherwise mostly plays things safe. The screenplay just does not quite approach the cleverness Bill Kelly brought to his script for the first movie. The film runs almost 2 hours, and I did start to feel the length of it during the third act. Despite my issues here and there with Disenchanted, I thought the filmmakers did a good job of mixing the fairytale elements with the modern world, and it's wonderful seeing Amy Adams in this role again, but with a slight twist. I hold Enchanted in enormously high regard, so any sequel would have to match up to my massive adoration for that first film. I don't think I'll be returning to Disenchanted as much, but I thought it did enough right in continuing to tell Giselle's story. Give Disenchanted a watch on Disney+, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching.